Like a chef that has crafted their ability over years to take the ordinary and to turn it into the extraordinary. To be able to look at a set of ordinary ingredients and to create something from it with their eye, with their keen eye for detail, proportions, and tastes and textures, to be able to create something that is a culinary experience. The same can be said about fashion designers. Designers who understand fabrics can take a look at a fabric, take a look at its weight, its drape, its texture, and to be able to make something magical from something ordinary. Take designer A and designer B. Both are creating with the same fabric, but designer A just has a bit of spice in what they've created. They know how to utilize the fabric to the best of its ability. They've taken the texture and they've implemented a design that works with it, that doesn't call away from it. Designer B is just designing with a one-size-fits-all solution. Who's better? Well, designer A understands how to maximize the potential of a fabric to bring out the best of a design. And this is what we're going to be describing in today's episode, the 5 key rules that I recommend as a fashion designer, as someone who's worked in the field for the last 10 years, someone who has worked with some of the biggest brands and being able to take a fabric and to let it tell a story. These are the 5 key rules that every designer should be implementing into their next collection. Welcome to Fittdesign TV. Are you interested in sports fashion, design, and manufacturing? Are you establishing your own brand? You're looking good. Anthony, how are we doing? Do you want to? Thank you. Well, you've come to the right place. Lights, camera, action. Rule number 1 is the more complicated that a design is, the plainer the fabric used should be. You have to understand that there's a symbiotic relationship between the visual aesthetic of a design and the visual aesthetic of a fabric. The more complicated the design, the less you have to go with your fabric. You don't need a fabric that has a loud print. You don't need a fabric that has an extraordinary surface lamination to it. You need a fabric that can subtly support your design. And vice versa is true. If you're creating something with a simplistic silhouette, with simplistic seam work, well, then you have the opportunity here to pick a fabric that has more character, that has more pizzazz. They can really bring out a bit of spice from the design that you created. Number 2 is never force the fabric. Every fabric has a specific characteristic, a profile to it that one could call. It has a specific drape. Maybe it drapes in a more structured way. Maybe it has a heavier set drape. Maybe the fabric tends to fold and create a lot of wrinkles. Maybe the fabric has a sharper fold. Each fabric is going to have its own unique way of folding, of hanging, and of sitting on the garment or on the body. So we must understand the unique characteristics of our fabric and design to them accordingly. If I was designing a garment that was intended to be a lightweight tank top, so a tank top that was meant to be worn during the summer seasons, I definitely would never pick a terry fabric. I wouldn't pick a fabric with a heavier set drape. Visually, even if I wasn't to touch the fabric, it would seem off. It wouldn't resonate correctly. And this is the idea. You need to marry the idea of the drape of the fabric with the performance, the functionality, the end use of the actual garment. In this regard, if the fabric is soft, it's very drapey, it's very silky, then avoid the temptation to over-tailor it, to over-construct it, to over-apply seams to it. And on the flip side, if a design is calling for a more constructed, it's a more oversized, it's very, very sort of in your face, then avoid using fabric that's extremely soft, that's supple, that won't be able to hold the construction that you need in order to call out these volumes. Number 3 is going to be designed to accentuate the characteristics of the fabric. Like I mentioned, each fabric has a unique set of profiles and characteristics that we can play into, that we can take the best out of. Recommendation for a lightweight single jersey knit would be to try to cut it loose, try to cut it at a flared aesthetic, allow it to hang, allow it to billow, allow it to create that volume and those drapes and those folds. On the flip side, if you have a fabric that's more structured, something like a heavyweight 100% cotton terry, you would never try to steam it or to iron it in a pleated format. You wouldn't try to create knife pleats using a heavyweight terry fabric. So these are polar extremes, but they dictate the same idea. Rule number 4 is you'll want to vary fabric weights to create a dynamic collection. Too much of the same thing can get stale, and when you're creating a collection, you need to be mindful of how different products with different fabrics are going to sit and complement each other. If you're tending to have a collection that is made out of stiffer, thicker fabrics, consider bringing in 1 or 2 fabrics that are more lightweight. Maybe they're woven, they have a crinkliness to them, a sort of a drape to them that is different, that can contrast the thicker, more knitted fabrics. That dynamicism, that difference in weight, in drape, gives and calls out attention to your primary function, your primary motivator of using that knitted fabric to begin with. So you can actually achieve the desired effect better by going against the grain. Just simply by breaking the mold or breaking the pattern in your collection, you can call attention to your stiffer and thicker fabrics by having 1 or 2 pieces that are made out of a completely different fabric, that drape differently, that fall differently. That way you can have a visual dissymmetry between part 1 and part 2 of your collection. A great example of this is if you're creating a collection made out of knitted fabrics, of heavyweight or medium weight knitted fabrics. Incorporating 1 or 2 woven pieces in there, such as shorts or joggers, are going to give that contrast, that give your customer the look, that variety in the collection that gives it depth and gives it more meaning overall. Rule number 5 is never commit to a fabric until you've sampled your garment in it. Sure, as a starting point, being able to see a fabric through a swatch and to make a selection or make an impression on the weight, on the texture. This is a great starting point, but each design is going to differ in terms of how it performs based on the fabric. And overall, a small swatch is going to vary significantly from a finished garment that is made out of that specific fabric. So don't form your final opinions until you've seen your desired fabric cut and sewn into your finished garment, and then from there you can truly assess how the garment is performing with the fabric that you've selected. When your fabric supports your collection and your theme. If you're creating something that's nature-based, if you're creating something that is meant to be worn at home, that is meant to be cozy, using a lightweight synthetic material is going to be contrary to that. But on the flip side, using a organic, sustainable, 100% combed cotton that's ultra soft, that's medium to heavyweight, is going to lean in further to this idea of sustainability, of home use, of coziness. Your fabric will also provide cohesion to your collection. When you take a step back and you look at your collection in its entirety, if you selected the right fabrics with the right weights and with the right construction techniques, you'll be able to see a sense of cohesion in what you've created. A good example of this would be the Alfleet Very Terry collection that we created. When you take a step back and you see the 100% cotton blend that is in a variety of different weights with that light wash on it, there is a clear consistency in the design and the theme that we've created over the collection. Your fabric will significantly address your customers' needs and their daily lifestyle habits. If you understand your customer and you've selected the right fabric story, you'll be able to select pieces and create pieces with fabrics that help to support that. There's no point if you're creating a outdoors wear or an outdoor collection to select fabrics that are not moisture proof, to select fabrics that are not durable. This shows a lack of understanding for how your customer or the end customer is going to use your garments in their day-to-day. Your fabrics will be consistent with your identity and your image. You have to understand that every piece that you create for your fashion brand is a stepping stone towards the brand that you're trying to cultivate. Your fabrics are a core component of that. How you select your fabrics, how you deploy your fabrics are all a contributing factor of your overall brand aesthetic and your brand philosophy. Your successful fabrics will also address current trends while also paving the way for future trends. So if the trend that you're going after is to go for sustainable fabrics or fabrics that are sourced in an ethical way, then the fabric selection there will play into that, will cultivate that. It'll also set the stage for your future efforts in the realm of sustainability. The right fabric selection will also allow you to create a collection that contains a variety of different fabric weights, textures, and different finishes. Sure, you're selecting a similar set of fabrics, but you'll have depth. You have the ability to explore different facets of your fabric. Again, a great example of this is the Alfleet Very Terry collection. If you look across the entire collection, it's all 100% terry cotton, but we did deploy 4 different fabric weights for the different garment types involved. Depending on which garment type we're using or we're deploying, we opted for either a heavier weight or a lighter weight fabric that would make sense. Look at the hoodie and the tank top, for example. The hoodie is an almost 400 GSM French terry cotton versus the tank top is a 280 GSM. It's the same exact fiber, it's the same exact construction, but the weights by which we deploy them are different because of the end use of each of the products. Well guys, that is it. That is a wrap on this episode. Let me know which of these 5 rules you agree with or which of these 5 rules you actually disagree with, and if you would add anything else, let me know as well. If you're interested in how you can tell your own story, how you can select the right fabrics to allow you to cultivate the right collection, the right theme, to to be able to penetrate the market in a way that feels meaningful and that feels authentic to your unique brand and vision. Or if you already have a set of fabrics that you're interested in and you're thinking, Shadi, how would I be able to implement these in a way that creates a collection that I can really use to stand out? And you want to use what you already have, well, check the link in the description. I offer one-on-one consultation calls every single week, and though slots are limited, I'd be more than happy to hop on a call with you guys. And I say this all the time, but from the very bottom of my heart, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.